back to Dev Talks Podcast. I'm your host, Devin Daniels. Today we are sitting down with former alderwoman who is on the ballot again, Judi Colter. She's running for Eastside, correct?
2 year. Yeah.
2 year Eastside alderwoman. She was the one who was seated for the temporary seat that John did not reseat at the meeting that I've spoke of on Facebook. Today we got her on here to talk about the issues in our town, where she sees it going, what she sees needing fixed, and why would be a good fit for our town as the alderwoman. Judy, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you today?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate your
You're
time.
welcome.
Let's just jump right into it. With our town, there's been a lot of heated debates and concerned citizens, and a lot of people mad at the direction that our city is headed. Um, what do you think about that?
It is a big mess right now.
It is.
Everybody's kind of blaming the council,
Mm-hmm.
and I blame them to a certain extent, because it should have been brought out a long time ago what was going on. They've been asking for the bank cash report since March, and they haven't received it. So it shouldn't have just all blowed up because I mentioned it in the January meeting,
Exactly.
and I got my throat cut on that. But
Yes.
I felt like the public needed to know that our books is not balanced. So we have just got to turn our town around, get the books balanced, and head it in the right direction.
Yeah, and go from there. And that's one thing that I don't understand is, how has the council been able to vote on anything without being able to know the money going in and out? Any good business, you don't spend money if you don't know about the money.
Right. Well, that's why I asked the other aldermen, how have you been spending money without having your books balanced all this time? And that's when Linda come out and said, well, we've been asking for these papers worked. And that's fine that they've been asking for them, but how have they been spending money? My opinion, and I really caught heck whenever Linda mentioned about freezing the budget. And
Mm-hmm.
I told them I agreed with that. The budget don't have nothing to do with shutting the city down
Yeah.
and not paying people and laying people off. The budget is just a projected budget.
Mm-hmm.
And if your books ain't balanced and you don't know exactly how much money you have in a bank, then you can't spend. It's like you, this year in your budget, you want to buy a refrigerator, but when it comes time to buying it, if you don't have it in your checkbook, guess what? Your
Yeah.
budget is shot.
Exactly.
You don't get it.
Yep. And
So I caught a lot of flack on that, still catching a lot of flack on it. But
I think the flack came from the miscommunication of what people heard you say. I mean, you said freeze the budget.
right,
You weren't talking about freezing the expenditures of our town.
right.
And I don't know if it's just the lack of knowledge on the vocabulary of it, but that's where it came from. And of course, the ones that were opposed to you being up there, they took that and ran with it.
Oh, sure.
And
Used it.
yeah, and used it. Yes. What do you think about the fact that you were appointed and then unseated, and like you said, your throat being cut? Because that's pretty much what it was. Is an assassination.
Well, I feel like really that I was used whenever they seated me. Uh, they needed another council person on there to get the budget passed.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed another one. I asked John about Brenda voting for me. He said he checked into it. She wasn't blood related and it was fine. He told her. So he needed somebody on there that night
Mm-hmm.
so they could get the budget
Yeah.
passed.
Okay.
And then he kind of lied to, because I didn't vote for it because I hadn't even had time to study it. So I abstained from voting, but I did ask him if the wages was in that budget, and Brenda asked him if the wages was in that budget, and he said absolutely not. The council had to vote on them later. It turned out that he said no, that it was in there. So the council has never voted on the wages, and that's very wrong.
The wages, the raises.
Yes.
The raises.
Yes.
Okay. And yes, that brings up a very good point on. Throughout the history of Mountain View, as we know, if there has been raises brought up, it would be brought before the council. It would have been voted on, and usually it was a percentile raise. Am I correct on that?
No, When I was in there and it started the administration, before I was in there, they was just giving like 50 cent across the board raises.
Okay.
Everybody got a 50 cent raise.
Okay.
But now they've went back to the percentage rate, which to me is very unfair.
Yes. Yes. And we've seen, and I don't, you've seen it, I'm sure, the raises that have been given.
It's sad.
It is, and it's weird how it was done, and of course questions are going to come up whenever you put, and this is coming from the mayor himself, that there were 3 people over who got the raises. They were over the raises. And when you put 3 people over the raises of everyone in a city, of course there's going to be questions that come up of, was there favoritism?
Right.
Did you not like someone?
Right.
And they put themselves in that position.
Right.
I think the raises could have been handled a lot better and a lot smarter.
Well, that's why that the councils should do the raises,
Yes.
not employees.
Mhm.
That's why the councils should. I know I brought it up to the city clerk on why somebody that was there for 25 years got a 3 cent raise, and that whole department got tucked, and it was like 13 cent raise. And then she just really made a nasty comment that they wasn't educated and they just slung trash.
Oh my God.
And so that is not the way you look at employees. They are,
No.
Everybody that works for the city is important to the city.
Exactly.
But I do feel like when you work for the city and you're getting paid 8 hours, you should work 8 hours.
I agree. I mean, you make your nut, but work for it.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And for them, I mean, that's a very irresponsible thing to say, especially for the sanitation department.
Right.
I mean, how long would it take for trash to pile up if they'd quit slinging their trash?
Yeah.
They are very important.
See how the citizens like it with it dump in their front yard.
Exactly.
Right.
And the government is a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
And if one cog is out of whack, that throws the whole thing lopsided.
Right.
And as we've seen in Mountain View, right now there are several cogs out of whack.
Yes.
And we are seeing it tip over in front of our faces.
Yes, we are.
And you tell us a little bit about the history of you. You were president of the bank.
Yes, I run a bank for 17 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
So you know numbers.
They say I do.
They say you do, yeah.
And some people don't like it that I know numbers.
Exactly.
But, like John made a comment at the last town hall meeting, I think it was, that he talked to somebody at the bank, and just because I run a bank, it was different on the bookkeeping part of it, accounting part of it in a bank than it was in a town.
Yeah.
What do you feel about accounting?
That? Exactly. Numbers are numbers.
I mean, when you're balancing books, you're balancing ledgers, you're doing bank recs. I don't care whose money it is. It's money, and it's all the same.
Yes.
So
numbers don't change. I mean,
no.
It's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division.
You have to balance your own checkbook, and it's the same thing. It's just in a bigger scale, and I really honestly don't. I pity the person that has to go in there and go back 11 months and try to reconcile it is going to be a job, and it's not going to get done in 2 days' time.
No, and it's going to be a hell of a job for whoever has to do it. Do you think there's a way to alleviate that? Maybe even if we hire a part-time financial consultant or something to help?
Well, you're going to have somebody that knows it, cares about it, and wants to do it. And I don't think we've had that for a while.
Yeah.
Because if you have any kind of accounting experience, you don't want to get behind on it because it makes your job twice as hard. And when you do get so far behind on it, you just feel like you're fighting a lost cause,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's one of those things, once you dig the hole, it's hard to get out of the trench.
Right. It just keeps getting deeper.
Yep. And I know your big thing is budget. Your big thing is numbers, because that's what you know.
Yes.
And that's one thing I think that Mountain View, our city, would benefit from, is having someone who has the knowledge of numbers, who has the knowledge of accounting in there to say, look, guys, 1 + 2 is supposed to equal 3, not 8.
Right.
Right. And I think we've lacked that for so long. And whether good intention or not, we've been flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah. And whenever I left office, and I got the paperwork, if nobody believes me, I got the paperwork to prove it. When I left office, we had $1,200,000 $100,000 in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
That was in general fund, and we wasn't counting all the. And we had state requires you to have reserve fund in case a storm goes through.
Mm-hmm.
Electric. What I hear, all of those CDs has been cashed in. Um, so.
And is that something we could get from Sunshine Law, or is that something that's going to have to be getting in there and digging?
Oh, that's yeah. You're gonna have to go in and pull all the CDs and see what we've got left.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know uh, they give all these raises, and that's gonna create another problem
Yeah.
because you're gonna have to put that reserve fund back in there,
Yes.
and the electric company that the co-op that we're in requires us to have so much so that we can fix it if a storm goes through or something drastic happens in
Mm-hmm.
Mountain View. So it's going to be a job.
And another question gets posed with our books being off. Doesn't that put us at risk for losing grants?
You don't get them.
You don't get them.
You do not get a grant. So one thing with a grant, you have, because most grants is not 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 80%, you have got to prove to that entity that you've got the 20%. You got the money to pay the 20% of this grant.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you have to turn off all of these financials. You don't get them if your budget's not balanced. That's just, you know.
So the books being balanced is a very serious issue within a town, especially as small as ours that don't operate off that much money.
Right. And well, it's the books being balanced in a large city is
Mm-hmm.
huge too.
But like Mountain View, it's very grant reliant.
Right.
And that's what scares me is like if we lose those grants, will anything get done?
Well, only what we can scrimp and save and do ourselves,
Exactly.
And without grant money, we lose big projects.
Mm-hmm.
I know,
like the Oak Street.
Yeah, well, people complain about the streets, and the streets are terrible.
Yes.
Okay, and John says we're waiting on a grant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell the people right now, unless them books gets balanced, you ain't gonna get no grant for the city. But the street repairs comes from transportation tax,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a restricted fund. It can only be used on streets, airport, city buses, city cabs, which we don't have, but
Mm-hmm.
we do have an airport.
So for people who just that are new to government stuff, restricted funds means it is restricted to a certain expenditure.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like our park and recreation tax.
Mm-hmm.
People went and voted for that. It can only be spent on our parks and our the swimming pool, the golf course, and the parks.
I got you.
And it's restricted.
Yes.
And yeah, it's against state statutes to use that money the wrong way.
So there's repercussions if it is used in the wrong way.
Sure, it is.
Okay.
And I was told by one of the aldermen, well, the wages and everything, street department takes up all of our transportation tax,
Mm-hmm.
which it eats at it. But every year, and I noticed in this budget, they've got $150,000 down there for paving. Well, I don't know where the $150,000 has been spent last year
Mm-hmm.
on the streets, because it is for asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
So, but take one section at a time. Nobody says you have to go through and pave the whole town.
Yeah.
Take a bad street and fix it.
Exactly.
Washington Avenue, half of it's gravel,
Yeah.
And so even if you have to co-pack it for right now, but they said you have to dig it back up, so they're wasting money there. So.
Well, see, and that was one of the complaints that, I'm just to let you know, I'm interviewing everyone that's running for city council.
Okay.
And the other day I had Alderwoman hopeful Vicky Carr on.
Uh-huh.
And that was one of her big concerns was the streets.
Right.
She was talking about one of her streets, how it's gravel halfway through.
Yes.
And then here you're saying, it's halfway gravel up some streets. Why would that not be a priority for our city?
Well, see, on her street, that's Washington, same one that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They had a water main break. And then on up the street, they had another water main break. And then they just put chat back down.
Mm-hmm.
really, I don't think the pipe should have been fixed. I think it should have been replaced, but we can look into that later.
because of how old it was and with
Well,
lead
it's what it's
concerns.
made. What it's made out of is what concerns me for the people.
Hmm.
But you mentioned it to John, and he
Goes
makes an
nowhere.
yeah, it's black paper.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're just talking to a wall when you bring it up to him.
Hmm.
But it will be looked into if I get reinstated onto the board, and it's he's waiting on the sewer to get fixed. There's always an excuse.
On why?
Yeah, but where's all the money being spent at?
Exactly. Because
That's what bothers me. Where has it gone?
exactly. Because when, like you were just talking about, and I've seen the paperwork, when you left office back in, what was that, 2020? 2022.
22.
We had 1.2 mil
Mm-hmm.
in the general.
Uh-huh.
And I think now we're down to like under 100,000.
I don't. The
It,
last one I got,
I
it
might be
was
wrong.
like, yeah, it was 500,000,
500,000.
and then I heard it's down another 100,000. So,
So
but I haven't seen the last month. So
yeah, so we're either way we cut it, we are down a significant percentage of
Yeah.
what we had built up.
right,
And with everything going on within our city right now, we are so grant reliant that it does beg the question of where's it going? What's
Right.
it being spent on?
right,
And
and and that's the councilman's job.
yes.
My understanding, and I experienced it the long term. I was in there from January to February, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
You got to really get
from
in.
December to January, not January to February, and he didn't ask me to step down. I stepped down on my own because I think he was kind of trying to set somebody up to get in trouble for breaking the rules
Well,
on that.
you're a woman with morals and ethics too, and you
Well,
know I trust you. I feel like you would always do what's right for our city,
right.
and if it's not done, you're a no bullshitter and you are straightforward.
That's just me, though.
Yeah, and you're by
Yeah,
the book, and
yeah.
I feel like untrustworthy is something no one can say about Judi
Right,
Colter.
right. Well, there is rumors
Always
that
rumors.
bad rumors now, because John has talked somebody in running against me, which that's fine. Then there's rumors going around that while I was in there, I had a secret bank account, that and took
Spicy.
deposit,
Yeah.
that's being investigated.
So let me ask you, Judy, is there a secret bank account we should be worried about?
Yeah, no.
No, I didn't figure.
But it is being investigated, and
Mhm.
I find out who started it.
Yeah,
I'll deal with them later.
go right to the source.
That's right. But okay, all that money's gone. People have to realize since I got out,
Mhm.
they have got $16 million worth of taxes since then, or
Yeah.
revenue since then.
Yeah.
That's all gone. So
Mhm.
you tell me where it's at.
Exactly. And
I think that's why I'm not wanted back on the board,
because you know where to dig.
because I will dig.
Yeah.
And I don't care who's sitting there. I will dig. I will find Mountain View's money for them.
Hmm.
And I'll do the same thing I did in January on the meeting. I will tell the public about it.
Hmm.
I think that's our problem now. Everything is done behind closed door, and there's too many closed door meetings.
Yes.
You're not supposed to have that many closed door meetings, but that's one way of keeping things from the public,
Yeah.
even though you're talking about stuff that should be in front of the public.
Yes.
So I'm real bad about throwing everything on the table and letting everybody know what's going on.
Well, you know what I say, the sunshine is the best disinfectant.
That's right.
And you're going to be a big old whopping sun coming up
Well,
under
good,
the, you
good.
know, and but that's what we need. We need people in there that do it by the book and that look at it for what it is and don't try to spin it a certain way.
Right.
This is what you got. This is what it is. These
Right.
are the numbers.
Right.
Now explain it.
Right.
You know, and I feel like, and I know this is kind of a slight on the current council, but it just seems like they do not have the knowledge or the knowledge or the I guess the experience that of looking into the budget and books. Like to me, when they say they haven't had a daily cash report in however long, X amount of months, then how do you vote on spending money?
You shouldn't.
Exactly. And
It's just,
the first thing you said up there is how are we spending money if we do not know what's going in and out?
well, how did we? How did they? I
Exactly.
mean, that's the question. That is their job
Yep.
to keep an eye on the city money. I don't care who's doing it. And John said I was picking on a certain person. That's why he didn't restate me.
Hmm.
Well, go ask the city clerk that was in there when I was in there,
Yeah.
because I don't care if it was $300 and
Hmm.
the cash report showed $300 off. I asked her why we was off 300. Now they're off 182,000. So I don't know exactly
Yeah.
what what. Maybe it's good that I did get stepped down because
Yeah. I mean, you would have had a fight for your life in
oh
there, and that's what's concerning is, um, I have talked to people about the budget and stuff, and I know at one time there was a number floating around that $24,000 was off in the books. Well, there's a certain citizen that was like, it's just 24,000, and he's running for council,
uh-huh.
but okay, just 24,000 to a city that makes 16 million. Okay, just 24,000. If I accidentally put $24,000 into your checking account, would it just be 24,000, or is that 24,000 that could really help?
Well, see, maybe with his idea, it's not his money, so he ain't worried about it. That's
That
the way I look at it.
and that's what I'm worried about.
And where did he come up with that 24,000? Because he told me that I said there was $24,000 missing. That's
Mm-hmm.
not what I said. I said in that budget we had like 8,800,000 and some $1,000 that was our revenue, and then 800 and or 8,800,000 something $1,000 that was in expenses, which left us with 24 or $26,000.
Mm-hmm.
And all I said, $26,000 is not very much.
No.
That's being, here's a budget and $26,000 is left over. Well, you get a lift station pump go out, you're broke.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I mean, 26,000 don't buy much with the kind of equipment a city has to buy.
Well, that, and especially in this day and age, I
Right,
mean, that's
right,
just a few trips to the
right.
grocery store anymore.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
As bad as that sounds.
But you know, if he wasn't concerned about 24,000, it's because it wasn't his money. But you have to treat that like it's your job to take care of the taxpayers' money. It might
Exactly.
not be your money
Mhm.
unless you have that secret account. But it you have to treat it with common sense.
Yes.
You know,
And I think that's what's lacked so much within our city
right,
government in the past bit is
right.
just the common sense of looking at things for what they are. I haven't been to a meeting in the past 8 months that there hasn't been a damn spin put on something.
Right.
Instead of just saying, this is what it is, let's
Uh-huh.
look at it and let's fix it. There's always a reason, an explanation, or passing the buck.
Just like at the last meeting,
Mm-hmm.
books ain't balanced. They bought what, 2 or 3
Yeah, 3
cop
trucks.
cars,
Yeah,
2
3.
trucks for the park and fire station. Do they know $50,000 was in there?
Exactly.
You can't treat it that way
Mm-mm.
without balanced books.
Exactly.
You're playing in the dark. You're playing with fire, and the way it's spiraling down,
Mm-hmm.
the state's going to come in.
That's what everyone's concerned about.
Because, whenever you get low on money and the city's going to be insolvent by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then the state's going to come in. Then they're all griping about these big raises that they got. Well, they won't have to worry about it because they won't have a job. They'll take our electric away from us. They'll take our sanitation department away. They'll cut everything down to we're working on Front Street, and that's it.
And that's what worries me is I don't think people truly understand what the state coming in and taking over our city government means.
It's bad. It's bad.
And it's something that once they take it, it's not like they give it back in a year.
No.
They make sure you can stay solvent before you get it back. And that's probably at least 3-4 years down the road.
Right.
And they'll be running skeleton crews because most people will lose a job if the state takes over.
Will.
And
sure.
I don't think that's being looked at in that light from the current administration.
I agree with you.
And it scares me for the workers of our city because
Right.
if we our town's small, if we lose one lineman or two linemen or a sanitation worker, those aren't easily replaced people.
Right.
And then there we are, we're playing from the back nine,
Right.
and it scares me for my town.
It does me too. And just the 2 weeks that I got to look at the books, uh, we've just got to stop the bleed. That's all.
Yeah,
That's my saying. You just got to stop the bleed.
put the tourniquet on.
Yeah.
And
And everybody goes, one of the aldermen, well, we don't want to make them mad. Well, you make them mad, or they lose their jobs.
exactly,
So what do you do?
it's like a parent.
Right.
You're kind of a parent to
Right.
the people
Right.
that work for you. Any boss is, and tough love sometimes with a kid is what you need. It's like, I'm doing this because we want to keep you here. It might not be what you want,
Right.
but it's what needs to be done.
Exactly.
And I think the mindset has been lost that there are certain things that need to happen within our city to keep it functional and keep it running and make sure we stay solvent and make sure that we are that well-oiled machine that we have been years past.
Right.
um it just it's and you see it in the public right now on how concerning the atmosphere of our government is, because at every meeting it's passing the buck. And I want to rewind a little bit here and take the politics out of it, but you were appointed. Okay, so they saw fit that you were qualified enough to take
Right.
over a job from a council member who stepped down.
Right.
And then a month later, after you ask a few questions on scary subjects to them,
Right.
but they just didn't want to talk about,
Right.
they pull that out from under you. I mean, to me, that would have angered me, and it seems very unfair that it was done.
But it wasn't shocking.
No,
It really didn't shock me because I know his attitude on stuff. You don't step on his toes.
mm-hmm.
But I felt like I owed it to Mountain View citizens that they are to know that the books what. And he accused me of stepping on, picking on somebody.
Yes,
You're not picking on anybody. You just want the books balanced.
and like John said at one meeting, do your job.
Right. Right.
I mean, and that's where I do have the problem with the mayor right now, is that he looked straight at the council and told them, "Do your job.
Uh-huh.
Why not swivel your seat and tell everyone in that building to do your job?"
Right.
You
Right.
know
He needs to do his.
exactly.
He they're not the only one with the job.
Mm-hmm.
And when you got somebody that is putting a lid on the agenda, and everybody's blaming the council because nothing's getting done or not saying nothing, well, they're not allowed to talk if it's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's up to him what is on the agenda. I was always under the thought of a councilman has a right to put anything on the agenda.
Yeah.
When I was in there before, any councilman could walk in and say, "Hey, I want to talk about this," and they was allowed to go on the agenda. But evidently, he's made a new set of rules on that, and he controls the whole agenda. But he don't care if he hurts people's feelings.
Yeah. Or the town.
Or the town. He just wants to do it his way. It's a power struggle with him.
And
that hurts the town. He can power struggle all he wants, but they're messing with Mountain View.
And they're messing with the taxpayers.
Yes.
And and that's where I think a lot of the anger is coming from in Mountain View, is over the past 8-9 months, not much information has gotten out. Like you said, everything's being done behind closed doors. And when Miss Carr was on a few weeks or last week or whatever it was, few days, I told her, I said, it's almost like they treat the citizens like mushrooms. They keep them in the dark and feed them the shit.
That's true.
And that's fine and dandy until the sunlight comes out and kills those mushrooms and you see what's really going on. And then people were like, well, you told me this, but why is all the evidence pointing to this?
Right.
And that last town hall we were all at, John took a beating from the public. Some things maybe not warranted, some were, but at the same time, it shows the state of our town and where the anger is placed right now.
And everybody's angry right now.
Everyone is angry.
And I think Well, you know, when you get lied to and lied to and lied to, and then the truth starts leaking out.
Yeah.
Uh, and if you do something wrong and you think, well, the people's going to be mad at me, it's better just to tell it then
Yes.
instead of letting it just pile up like a, you know, mountain. And then when the anger comes out, they're really,
Yes.
really mad.
Exactly, because they've had time to dwell on it and
Uh-huh.
stew and come up with crazy
Uh-huh.
conspiracies.
And realize that they've been lied to, used as pawns.
Yep.
You know,
And no one likes to be made a fool.
That's right.
Mm.
And then they really get mad and they come out with their daggers, you know,
Exactly.
which happened at the last town hall meeting, you know. And I've talked to business people, and it's a shame the way they feel.
Yeah.
You know, they're scared. They own businesses in town. They don't know what's going to happen to our town because it's just spiraling down.
And that's their life.
Right. So I hope people, you know, support the ones that care.
Yeah.
The guy that's running against me was talked into it. And then I was told that he registered to vote on the day he signed up. So he hadn't even been a registered voter.
Yep. And I'm in the midst of confirming that.
Yeah.
And I will bring that out as soon as I find it, because, and one, we have never seen two of these candidates, the one that's running against yourself and the one that's running against Miss Carr. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup because they've never been to a meeting. They've never voiced a concern.
Right.
They have never offered a solution to anything. All of a sudden, they just come in thinking that they're just going to get the job. I don't know. It's concerning.
Maybe they didn't come in. Maybe they was let in. I think they've been handpicked.
Yes.
And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that's who the citizens wants, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to help Mountain View. I'm not here to be anybody's, as they said on the website, I was Donnie's puppet. No, I got news for people. I'm nobody's puppet.
Yeah.
And
you're your own person that stands on your own accolades.
Yep. And so it
and just talking to you in the short amount of time that we've been acquainted, and there's been things that you know, throughout city issues, you know, since you're running, I'll just come up and be like, hey, Miss Colter, what do you think about this? You know, because I want to get a feel for all of our candidates. You know, like me and you, we've been acquainted, and on certain city issues, you know, I'll come up and ask your opinion because you are a qualified person. You have ran the city before. You know what running a government looks like because you've been in the belly of the beast. And from, you know, there's some things where I've got an opinion on, and you're like, well, you need to look into this, you know, and you're right. And, you know, you're not afraid to tell someone they're wrong. And that's what our town is lacking right now is leadership, spine, and direction. And I think you have all three of those things.
Oh, I appreciate that. And it's okay to have a spine. But the most important thing to me is you've got an opinion, and I want to hear your opinion because we might take your opinion, my opinion, make one great opinion out of it. On ideas, you can't go into anything thinking that your idea was the only idea on the subject. You know, you've got to, there's 4 people on the council. Everybody up, every one of them's got an idea.
Yes.
And if you put 4 of them together, never know what you got.
Exactly.
You know, but you got to have an open mind. It can't be your way all the time. You've got to have an open mind, use common sense. And I think that's what we're liking.
Yes.
I don't like it because I do feel like that our council's kind of been muffled down.
Yes.
But the only problem I got with that, well, whenever I brought out about the book's not been balanced, one of them says, well, I don't know how you're going to get it out of there. Yeah. And I said, hang on, I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it out there. And I did. I caught hell for it, but that's okay. I felt like the citizens needed to know that we're running on thin ice.
Yes.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. And you know, and that's the thing, like, about yourself. And you're running on your own merit, and you're running on your own mind. No one's trying to pull a string with you.
No.
And no one's really, like, no one in the government is backing you, or, you know, there's a reason they're scared. And to me, that's an eye opener of, well, if they're worried about her getting in, she's probably a good candidate. You,
Well, I hope.
you know what I mean? And,
Well, I will work for Mountain View, not myself.
mhm.
I just want Mountain View to get back on track.
Yes, and Mountain View deserves to prosper.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the businesses within our town deserve to prosper.
Right.
I've talked to several, almost all business owners in Mountain View. There are a few that lean one way and a bunch that lean the other, but the common denominator is they feel the problem lies within a power struggle within the mayor wanting
Mhm.
to hold the power,
Right.
and that's coming from them, not me. And from what I've seen, and I've been to the meetings, and I stream them and everything, and that's what it looks like. And if the council can't get anything put on the agenda, how is the council going to do their job?
If you got a mayor that way, and it's with state statute, if you can't walk in there and just be let's work together attitude
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, we need to talk about this. If you don't do it, then you got to get two council people. They got to write a letter, write a request, and and the letter's got to be same of what you want on the agenda. Then you have to give it to the mayor. Two people request has to be requested if it's in writing. Well, take the time and do it.
Mm-hmm.
If something's that important, take the time, get two of you together, write the letter, get it on there, work on it.
Yep.
There's my dad's always said there's more than two ways to skin a cat.
Dang
So,
right.
Yeah,
it's just figure out the best way.
Figure a way that it can't be just shoved in a pile and forgot about.
And I think that's what's brought Mountain View into the problems we're seeing now, is that these at one time small problems were shoved into the back,
Mhm.
and now they've just built over time and they have become big problems.
Right. And I feel sorry for the council that's on there now,
Yes.
because now they have to go through the city attorney,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not allowed to go into city hall.
Which obviously costs money.
Sure it does. Every time.
And expected.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't work for free,
Hell
if I was
no.
an attorney. And so they have to turn everything over to the attorney, and they go to there and there. And it's sad when a councilman sits up there and say, I wanted this, this, that. And if you would have heard her say all the list that they was very important things to the city,
Yes.
and all he could do is just say, what about it? That's trying to work together.
Mhm. And
What about it?
and I tell you, one thing that made me raise an eyebrow is one of the reasons for not putting it on the agenda is because it was vague.
Right.
Okay, but the more vague that the agenda says, the more things you can cover within the topic.
Right.
Why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing.
Was that ever a problem when you were a councilwoman the last time,
No.
of something being too vague, or was it a pretty open space to where everyone could talk and they're trying to figure stuff out for the city?
Right. Any councilman that wanted something on the agenda got it put on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if it was about the dog catcher. If they wanted to talk about it, they talked about it.
Yeah.
And the big problem I see now, and I know by sunshine law, you don't have to allow it. You do not have to allow the public to talk.
Mm-hmm.
But in the MMO books, if you let one person talk, then you cannot stop that second person from talking, because then you're discriminatory. But we always sit there and listen at all the complaints. You do not have to answer them back,
Mm-hmm.
but you got the public opinion coming at you.
Yes.
Now that's not allowed.
And I was present whenever you were on the board to a lot of meetings. And I remember, that was one thing I always applauded you guys for, is that, damn it, you took the time to listen to the people, whether it be
and talk to cousins.
Yeah. And whether it be one of the dumbest arguments out there, you sat there and you respected that citizen enough to listen and let him or her be heard.
Right. And and the town hall meetings before the meetings is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the only problem I see with that, the council can't be there, because then it's considered a quorum.
Mm-hmm. And once a quorum, it has to have an agenda, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And it has to be open like a meeting, the whole thing.
Okay.
And
well, he was saying that they were, and I want to make this clear, just to clear the air on this, is that at these town halls, he always said, well, the council was invited, they never showed up. and that it was very much looked at that the council was not coming because they didn't want to talk.
They would.
But
It's illegal.
exactly,
I mean,
that's why I
if
wanted
they
to.
would have come,
Hmm.
they would have had this set up there. They could have not have talked to each other. You know,
Hmm.
they could not. This all. You know, like if you'd asked them a question, three of them couldn't have answered, or two of them couldn't have answered it because there's a quorum there,
Hmm.
and you're not allowed to talk about city business without it being in a
Agenda
agenda in a
structured,
meeting.
yeah, in
In
a
a meeting.
structured thing, and that makes a lot more sense now, looking back on why they didn't come,
But
because
that's one way to make the council look bad. They were
exactly.
invited.
And I think
Well,
that's been a common denominator throughout. It's point the blame as much as we can.
make them look bad. Make them
Yes.
look bad.
Yes.
And uh, to me, we always had our agenda. We always did our thing. We always had uh, the old business, the new business, and then we had the open quorum. You was there,
Hmm.
and the public got to speak. Now we did limit,
Hmm.
like
You have to.
3 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, because you're going to be there all night if you don't.
Exactly.
But there was some good things said, and we took a lot of cussings.
Hmm. But you also got a lot of things fixed.
Yes, yeah,
And you actually, you know, I was there. I witnessed that administration, and if there was a concern and it had validity to it, you guys took it and you ran with it, and you found, may, maybe if there was a solution, you did,
right,
but if not, you did what you could,
right.
and that means a lot to the people.
Well, all the aldermen would write down a note. Everybody would investigate it. The next meeting, it'd be put on the agenda what we
Hmm.
found or what we couldn't find or what we couldn't do. And sometimes they liked the answer, sometimes they didn't,
But there was still an answer.
but they was still an answer, and
Hmm.
they wasn't. Um, and people had questions with for one alderman. They'd pick out.
Yeah.
We just all sit there and talk. You was there. You
Hmm.
seen what we went through.
Yes.
I think that's a good thing to involve uh, the citizens in with. I know it's legal for them to not to,
Yeah.
but it is their town,
Yeah.
and they just picked you to help run it.
Yeah. They
And
put their faith in you,
yeah, yeah,
and they trusted you.
right,
And, that's the thing. And I get it, the legalities of it. Like, they legally don't have to do it. But sometimes legal and moral are two different pillars that you could
right,
stand on.
right,
I mean, there's several things that are legal that
right,
are not moral,
right, right.
and
We see that.
exactly, exactly. And that's where I'm getting at. It is like legality, morality, there's a fine line to walk between them when you're a public official.
Hmm.
And if you don't walk that line, you get a blazing mess like we're in now.
If you don't want to put up with the heat,
Hmm.
my opinion is you shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah.
We're not. None of us is going to be perfect.
No.
You're gonna make
And
mistakes,
people gonna be mad.
right? And they're gonna be mad at you. You're gonna make the mistake. You're gonna say, "Oh gosh, we should have did it this way instead of that way." But that's why you sit and listen to everybody's ideas. Uh, there was mistakes made when I was on there first,
Yeah.
and there'll probably be mistakes made again.
It's human error.
It's human error,
Yeah.
but admit them, face them, turn it around, do what you can,
Hmm.
and work for the people. Don't work. I'm not going in there with no private agenda.
No.
I'm going in there because I see the town, how it's going down a drain right now, and hopefully
And
people will put the trust in me. And
well, they should. You have an ability. We've seen you work before. We've seen where the condition of the town is. Whatever people want to bitch about or say, at the end of the day, no one ever questioned if the town was moving in a
right,
more positive direction.
right.
And that's what we are very sorely lacking now.
When I was on there before, we always had a rule that you left your phone number at City Hall. If
Hmm.
anybody called and wanted to talk to East Side or West Side, it didn't matter to me
Hmm.
whether it was West Side person, East Side, they was citizen of Mountain View.
Yeah.
I got a lot of calls. Now, nobody has anybody's phone number.
Mm-mm.
There for a while, you couldn't even get a hold of the mayor.
Yeah,
And that's wrong.
it is.
I know if they want to, believe me, got a lot of phone calls.
Hmm.
I got a lot of phone calls when Brenda was set on there because they thought I was still on there. No, 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 no,
Wrong
no,
person,
no,
wrong
wrong
one.
person. I didn't do it this time. But oh, you're not on there,
Thank goodness,
But
right?
yeah, but you know, uh, everybody worried about Brenda being. She's married my first cousin,
Mhm.
and w- we're family, but we're not a type of family that okay, I'm at their house every weekend.
Yes, yeah.
Um, so
Cousin twice removed on
yeah,
mom's side of
yeah,
the kin three
yeah,
times. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. I've got lots of
My
family like
grandpa's
that.
sister or something,
Like yeah, you share the last name, but not much
Right,
interaction going
right.
on.
Well, she's got her family, and I was gone for several years, and I was raised here in Mountain View, retired and come back to Mountain View,
Hmm.
like the lifestyle in Mountain View, um, and went to school here,
Hmm.
and so I care about the town.
Yeah.
You can kind of pick the people out that
Yes.
wasn't raised here and coming in from another town, and
Yes.
then they really don't have the heart and soul to take care of our town.
They don't have the deep roots that have been
No,
set in by
no,
watching this town from what it was to what it
right,
is, and just all the memories and the.
right,
Whenever I say investment, I don't mean monetary, but just the emotional and love for the town
right,
that
right,
the citizens have.
right,
I mean, our town is a very old town,
right,
and a lot of the families have been here since God, I would love to know when.
right,
Like
right,
they go here, they don't leave.
right,
you
right.
know,
I know my great great grandma raised my mother,
yeah,
and she was raised here, and yeah,
it's home.
I've been here a long time.
Yeah, and it's home.
Right,
Um,
right.
what are some things right now? Just kind of switching gears here. What are some glaring concerns to you that you see that could be fixed with the right people in?
Um, Managing the restricted funds.
Hmm.
Uh, like I said, the streets has got to be worked on.
Hmm.
Um, First of all, we got to balance the books. We got to
Yes,
get them.
that's numero uno.
Yeah, that's number one right
Yeah.
there. And get the books balanced. Then, if there is grants out there on the street, then let's work for it.
Hmm.
Um, cleaning the town back up.
Yes.
The trash along 60 is horrible. I get complaints about that all the time. And around the football field on Elm Street, um, we used to keep that all clean and neat and
Hmm.
weed eated. And um, when people passing through, and I do it myself
Hmm.
whenever I'm traveling. You come to a town, and if there's litter laying everywhere,
You don't
you
stop.
really don't want to stop.
Yeah, you wait for the next one to get
Right?
gas.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And um,
First
the
impressions are everything.
yeah,
And
if you're coming down 60 and there's trash all alongside the road, okay, there's Walmart, and we really need to do this, and well, let's go see what the next town is because you don't want to stop in trash.
mhm.
That's an important. The appearance of our town is important to me. Um,
And the hard truth to face, whether we like it or not, is Mountain View doesn't have much to offer
right,
as is.
right,
And first impressions are everything. So if you take the two ingredients of not having much to offer, i.e., entertainment,
right,
restaurants,
right,
whatever,
right,
and then the look,
right.
and you combine that together, we are nothing more than a drive-through town,
That's right.
and that's something that we could remedy.
And I, you know, uh, we've got to work on Mountain View growing.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Yep.
got to do something to get business in here. I was working on all these. I
Mm-hmm.
guess that fell through after I left office.
That would have been the
Oh,
loves of Mountain
right,
View.
right. And it would have brought people in from Emma's, Van Buren,
Yes.
everybody goes to all these.
Yes.
Go to West Plains, and there's people there from Mountain Home.
Exactly.
But then, we was trying to get Beta Tech in,
Mm-hmm.
which were really, really up Mountain View.
And that was the electrical plane chargers, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I
the
remember
electric
this.
planes was coming in.
Yep.
Um, that was all, but just signing the contract. So I don't know what happened to that.
Mm-hmm.
But that would have been a mass improvement for Mountain View because then UPS and what's FedEx.
FedEx.
You know,
They would have had to stop and charge their planes here.
right? Well, that and they're going with the electric vans anymore. You know,
Yes.
so
And
and it wasn't going to cost Mountain View Nothing.
Because if I remember correctly, I was at the meeting, and what they said that they were going to install three phase
Uh-huh.
for free. We were going to get three phase.
Uh-huh.
They were going to put the chargers in,
Yeah.
and all we had to do was provide the land under I think a 10-year contract.
After 10 years, everything belonged to us.
Exactly.
You know,
and it would have been,
what was it, 5 charging stations I think they was going to have,
and then the city would have made money off the electric,
right,
after a certain point or something like that.
No, the electric they used, they was going to pay the city
Okay,
for off the
okay.
chargers. That would have went on their bill.
So a complete positive for the town,
right?
That somehow fell through the cracks.
I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
I asked once, they go, "Oh no,"
Because
that's all I got.
and-
Oh no.
and well, that and see, and I want to reiterate on trickle effect, because say we did do something like that, what would the trickle effect been? That maybe we get a UPS depot, because it could have been a hub.
Yep.
Maybe.
And they could have put a warehouse in, had a depot where they flew it in, stored it there, and trucks took it out.
Exactly.
You know? So, yeah, there was many steps to it, and on top of that, would we had more planes coming in?
Yes.
What other kind of,
and that opens us up to even more.
Yes.
Because that's what I like to bring up the point. I know I really hit on Willow a lot, and it's just because I'm very proud of that town.
Yeah, sure.
On what it's doing. But the spark that lit the fire was that Love's coming in.
Right.
And then after that, everything started happening.
And Willis sits at an entirely different place than Mountain View, because it's at a junction.
Yes.
You know,
which is
60,
already
63 and 60. You know, Willis got the advantage big time on Mountain View.
Mm-hmm.
West Plains got advantage because 63 goes through there, 160 goes on down into Arkansas. So
and Mountain View, it has its characteristics.
But Mountain View is kind of a halfway spot between Poplar Bluff and Springfield.
Yep.
You know, so we've got to work on progress.
Yes.
And if people don't like progress, then we're in trouble.
And I think a lot of people are scared of what progress could look like.
Oh, I know.
It's like Mountain View, and we do have things in Mountain View to brag on. Like, we are a small town that has its own hospital.
Right.
You know, that alone is a pretty good thing for our town. You know, we have a Walmart. We're getting a super center at one point.
Right.
You know, that never happened. But there have been avenues for us to grow.
Right.
That have just a certain misstep has caused it to fail. And I think it's time to get people in that are open-minded like yourself, that have learned from the history of past.
Right.
And turn that misstep into a step forward.
Right.
And from everything that you say, it seems like you are very much on the side of step forward.
Yes.
Instead of back.
You're right.
Like we've been for the past year.
Or just standing still. We can't do that.
Exactly.
You know, we got to move forward.
Yeah, because innovation breeds innovation.
Right. And it don't mean that we have to go and, fill up Highway 60,
Exactly.
But you got to show growth. And when you show growth, then there's more growth, and there's more growth. And it can't happen overnight, but we got to work on
exactly.
it
And
today.
I mean, if you show it, it entices others.
Right. But cleaning it up, making it look good, care about what yes. And we got some buildings that needs to be fixed.
Yes.
That's just kind of, people used to get tickets for it, and now they just kind of shoved all that aside.
And we've seen the cause and effect of that is now we look like a pigsty.
Yeah, exactly.
As I hate the rough words, but it is.
It's true. There's dead deer, dead dogs that's left on 60 to just rot. Them used to be all picked up and taken out to the dump out on Y Highway, but no, the people can just drive by and watch the flies swarm.
Exactly. Yeah, and I passed, I think, 3 today on the way back from work. You know, and that's another thing that a lot of businesses within Mountain View are very worried about, is the identity of our town. It seems like our town right now is lacking identity. Period. End of story. Period. Right. And the infighting that's happening within our council and our mayor right now, and it's always the blame game. The mayor's blaming the council, and vice versa. But when does the pride and egos get put aside and say, all right, this is our town, we need to do something for it, and
that worries me. That part of it worries me.
It does me too. And there may not be an answer right now for it because the tensions are so high.
Right. Well,
fresh faces.
But when you got somebody out there that's cutting somebody up, starting bad rumors on them, then how are they going to work together?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's, they've got to be a middle,
Hmm.
and people's just got to treat people with respect.
Yes. And
You
that's
know,
been sadly lacking for a
right,
long time. And
right.
and at first when all this started, a lot of people were excited about the drama,
Uh huh.
but man, it doesn't take long to get tired of that, and it's time to get back to work.
I shouldn't open my mouth, should I?
No, 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 no. Glad you did. I'm just talking about like
Oh,
the
I know.
citizens,
Yo, I know. They got involved whenever it come out.
I mean,
Everybody got involved.
exactly. Miss Carr brought up at the last podcast we did. I think she counted 64 people. I mean,
Yeah.
have we had that many people at a meeting in the past few years?
I don't think so.
Me neither.
I don't.
Everyone I go to, it's the same 15.
I think everybody had something to say too. That's a bad part.
Exactly. That just shows you the condition of
Right.
it,
Yeah.
and
It's got bad.
and it's a judgment on them for making it this bad.
Right.
And
It is.
Yeah. And it's time for a change.
Yes, it is.
And it's time for
I just hope that everybody wants that.
Me too. Me too.
So
all right. So switching gears a little bit here. One thing I want to ask is so we know you have a write-in against you.
Right.
And I think Miss Carr has someone run against her.
Yes, she does.
It's a policeman's family or something
Right.
like that. You go to all the meetings,
Yeah.
and we see you there. And throughout your time at these meetings, have you ever seen these individuals come and participate in this public forum, in this meeting? And,
No.
And I haven't either.
No, neither one. The one that's running against Miss Carr or the ones running against me, I haven't. I probably wouldn't know them if I seen them on the street because they're never at the,
Yeah. And that worries me because how do they know the condition? And I get it. I mean, anyone can run and whatever. And I'm proud that people want to run.
Right.
But where does their campaign stand on if they haven't been involved with our city? That's what worries me.
Like I said a while ago, I think they've been led there. It's not that they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've been enticed to run. And, you're not going to walk in and say, how are you going to know what's even going on if you haven't been at the meetings and seen the drama?
Exactly. And participate in the public
Right.
forums, and that's like, there's been so much that's happened that even the people have not seen at the meetings because of one, the person who gets paid to record not being there,
right,
or two, something happened, it's not getting posted. I'm not saying that's ill intent or anything, but the fact remains is there's a bunch of things that have happened that haven't been posted.
I don't know why it was changed over on Vimo.
Yeah, me neither.
And nobody was ever informed about it, even at the meetings. Hey, this is going, or if they did talk about it at the council meeting, I missed it. You know?
Because there for the longest time, you could go onto the Facebook page of the city, click on it, pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
That brings another point, and this is another poor decision making in our government that I see, is that there was a meeting a while back, and I kept meaning to bring this up in my opinion videos, in my monologues, and I have forgotten, and I'm sorry for that to everyone. But one thing that happened at this meeting is it was right when I don't want to misspeak here, but there was some type of charges or investigation or something being done against the council versus another employee. And they were told or advised by their attorney, don't go back into a closed meeting, don't talk about this.
Right.
And so whenever they were at the meeting, and they were quote unquote compelled to go to the back.
Yeah.
And under the threat of police arrest.
Right.
I don't know, arrest or
handcuffed, handcuffed and dragged.
Handcuffed and dragged back there.
Right.
That right there just shows the uncooperation and unwillingness to work with each other.
Right.
And that puts those guys in a situation, guys and gals, that if there is an investigation happening on them and their lawyer or attorney, private or whatever, tells them, do not do this because it could hurt you, and then it's forced, then how is that answerable to them when they were forced to do something because the cops went and did it? And I don't even know 100% if it was legal or not. I mean, it's a bad look.
Okay. If it is a special meeting, the ordinance that I read on it, because they kept saying it was legal, so I went and dug out the ordinance book and looked it up. The way I read it, if a special meeting has been called. Things is going to be voted on so the city can run.
Mm-hmm.
And say I didn't show up, but they needed me there to make a quorum to vote.
Yes.
They have a right to send an officer,
Mm-hmm.
get me, and compel me to come, and then
Just like the Senate and
right,
Congress,
right.
where yes, we've
The
seen it
special,
happen before. Yes.
because you need them there to make a quorum to vote. So, but the council was there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a special meeting, and you really, in my thoughts on it, you never have to have a closed door meeting because you can't vote.
Exactly.
So he was making them to go into a closed door meeting. It wasn't for the good of the city because they wasn't voting on nothing.
Mm-hmm. Is an ego thing.
Right. My opinion.
Mine too.
Well, I will just say this. They would have had to handcuff my ass and drag me back there.
Me too. Me too.
Because
and
it might have been fun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And whether right or wrong, and I'm not saying that he was right, he was wrong, or anything, but whether right or wrong, that is just a bad look, and it shows the uncooperation.
Yes,
I
yeah.
mean, just the look of it alone.
It was like dictatorship.
Yes. Yes, and it's scary.
Let's just all move to Russia and
yeah. I mean, it's scary.
Shoot me in my face.
Exactly, because it's scary because they were at that meeting. Sorry, I didn't mean to spit.
That's all right.
But they were at that meeting, and they didn't want to go back into closed session.
They was told not to go.
They were told not to go, and to force a citizen. Let's take them being council members out of it, but forcing a citizen or a human into a situation like that to where it could mess with their legalities of whatever's going on is very concerning.
Right.
And I think that could have been handled better.
A lot better.
A lot better.
A lot better.
Yep.
And and the bad part about it, they asked for the city, wait till the city attorney got there. Mm. And he wouldn't even wait till the city attorney got there to that meeting. He knew the attorney couldn't be there exactly 5 o'clock, which is the first time they ever had a meeting at 5 o'clock. But so don't you feel that's really weird?
It does. It is very
weird.
The
city attorney wasn't there. Just so happened she come in the back door time they got into the meeting room, and so they did have a little council there.
Yes.
But and all of this is costing the city so much because somebody was requested for paperwork,
Yes. Yes.
And the council's getting blamed for it.
Exactly.
And it's not even the council's fault. I went in there and I asked what gets me about the paperwork. The council gets charges put against them for asking for paperwork, the paperwork that they have to do their job. But somebody from a different town can go in there and ask for it, and they're handed them without any harassment charges thrown against them.
Or any complaints at all.
No complaints, just handing them over.
Yeah. And
so
it's, and I know we just keep circling back to it, but it's just not a good look for our town. I mean, any business that would want to come in and see the infighting on any part of anything going on with our city, but the infighting of our town, if I was a business and I come in, I go to a council meeting to fill out the town, and all this stuff's going on, I'm going to scoot the other way and I'm going to head out of this town quick.
Right.
And it just de-incentivizes growth.
Right.
At its core is what it does.
Exactly.
What are some, hang on, will you put a cut from like 2 seconds ago? I was looking up for some reason until now. Okay, switching gears a little bit here. Just say you are voted or you are elected in and you are councilwoman. What are your 3 top things that are first? I know balancing books is one, but what are the 2 things that is going to be the most time or energy put on at the very beginning? Just to,
well, like you said, balancing the books, just working with the council for the betterment of Mountain View. try to get the citizens more involved so they don't feel like they're left in the dark is very important. Um, we just got to work for better Mountain View.
Yeah, I agree. I agree,
Yeah.
and that's yeah, and that covers everything. I mean,
Right. Right.
if we can just keep that at our hearts, then everything else falls into
Exactly.
place. Uh, Judy, I appreciate you coming on and
Oh,
doing this. It's been great talking to you. Great insight, and you're a very experienced and qualified candidate.
okay.
And
Thank you.
is there anything you want to say to the people before we
No,
leave?
I just hope that we get a new council on there
Hmm.
and we make Mountain View better.
All right. Well,
Okay.
it's been a pleasure.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
guys. This has been the conversation with Judi Colter. Make sure to get out and vote on April 2nd. Is it
Yes.
2nd? On April 2nd. Let's get our city turned around and get it going in a positive direction. There's a lot of things going on with our city that needs to be addressed, and I feel like our town is in dire need of change. And the only way to do that and make your voice heard is to show up and vote. And this is it for tonight. And cheers.